Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. So the reason why we're all here and why most of you are probably watching this video is because of Dark and Darker. And now look, everyone's trying to scratch that itch and clones are starting to appear like crazy. With Dark, Dread, Project Crawl, all these games are being released to try to basically convince us that they can give us the same experience Dark and Darker can. And this brings us to a game that has been just recently kind of announced and released for playtest on the weekend, being Starsiege Deadzone. Most people are calling it Dark and Darker in space. But truthfully, as much as I want to say this is a Dark and Darker type game, the experience felt way different. And I'm going to get into that as we go through this video. I'm going to show off some of the gameplay and some of the experiences I had. But first, just to be upfront with you guys, the only reason why I'm playing this or attempting to play this is simply because we're not able to play Dark and Darker. That's it. This is why I think these games are getting kind of a little bit of an opportunity to shine and test. And as you'll see here, you know, similar idea. There's shops. You have a very basic loadout or starter kit. You enter into a lobby, either solo or with squads, try to find some loot and extract. That's it. That's kind of the bare bones kind of idea behind it. Just the setting is entirely different, and some of the decisions around like this purple gear and some of the armor, which I'll discuss later, leaves me a little bit frustrated when I attempted to, you know, really dig into this game. So, on top of those weapons and shop options, you also get some skills which can be pretty impactful, and you kind of gain them as you level up. So I didn't really get into a whole lot of these as I didn't spend 100 hours diving through this game. But they're useful, and consider them like the skills in Dark and Darker with any class, but every character has access to the same sets of skills. Everybody gets to try these. There's no, you know, class-specific ones. And where it starts to get even more interesting and even more important is these Masteries. And these are tied into your armor, which I didn't realize until later. But just briefly looking at some of these, like Medic being able to heal 20 or 30% faster, and ones like Heavy Armor that reduce headshot damage by like 100% or something crazy. Anyway, some of these are pretty wild, and basically what it takes is just some armor upgrades, which also unlocks some of these Mastery slots. I was not aware of this until I had died repeatedly and started to learn what was going wrong. So just like Dark and Darker, you get a pre-game lobby, you can bounce around with your friends. I actually had a hard time finding full lobbies as a solo, so I started to play more squads. And it's a similar idea. You jump into a game, you look around, and try to find your way to the extraction. I will just give this game props, as the setting is really cool. I mean, the boots on the steel spaceship, some of the background environment noises, and overall the mobs weren't, you know, anything super special, but at times they did leave you in a kind of a spot you didn't want to be in, which was challenging. And right there you're seeing one thing I do not like. The Hot Wheel thing, where you have a whole bunch of items on a wheel and you have to select them with your mouse. I'll show you another example of this later, but it's just not something I enjoy. Picking up our first couple kills on some mobs felt actually really nice. The shooting in this game feels responsive. You're not feeling like your bullets or your guns are just out of control. Feels pretty nice, other than kind of what you saw right there. And you're gonna see that again later. There were moments, I don't know if it was my graphic settings or what it was, where my screen would just shake and bounce around. And I have a really good example of this coming up when I fight a few players. Overall, this game only had like 7 people in it, so it was a lot more peaceful than I thought it would be. And you're seeing that entire, you know, wheel is now full of items. So I got shields, I got health packs, I got various different types of grenades. I had this same kind of gripe with Cycle, as I just don't like that, because in the heat of the moment it can become and feel just kind of like cumbersome. So moving along, we actually kill some mobs and we hear a crazy amount of footsteps, which means we're PvPing. And you saw it right there. That screen shake. Trying to switch to an item is just chaotic, and I think that grenade actually hit him for a lot of damage, like 288 damage on top of my assault rifle, but that was some of my first few fights. Screen shake, trying to get that Hot Wheel to do something with the grenade, it's just not worth it when you're not completely familiar with the controls. So after kind of getting a few escapes in, you can, truthfully, this is the best part of the game for me because I love variety and switching things up. There's actually a lot more weapons than I thought there'd be. Like, you can go with SMGs, silenced pistols, DMRs, shotguns, sniper rifles, crossbows. I tried a lot of these, and what I did find was that everyone was just running SMG. So sadly, apart from the DMR, I didn't find any gun that really stuck with me as being impactful. And some are actually incredibly lackluster because they're made for mobs, where it just didn't feel like it was necessary to have a good weapon to kill mobs when you can kill the mobs with a kinetic rifle, as well as PvP. Perhaps in the later levels or stronger missions, you need some decent damage against mobs, but I didn't find it at all useful. Just use your starter pistol, clear whatever you can, and salvage all the ammo from the mobs, and shouldn't need to waste any money on energy weapons. Like right here, I'm using the shotgun. This guy twice, and this was actually one of my few kills, and I thought, damn, maybe the shotgun ain't so bad. Well, you'll see here quite quickly why the shotgun is not good. We tried, and I did switch up my weapons a lot, and like you're about to see, sometimes it just does not matter what weapon you have. But I actually have the dome shield equipped here just to try it out, and I thought it'd pair well with the shotgun. We get that weird screen flick again. Land a nice shot. And I seriously thought that was going to do way more damage, but apparently I only did 50 damage to this guy. We then quickly switch over to the DMR, which I saw people suggesting as a really, really strong weapon. And, yeah, I liked it. The hipfire is actually a lot more accurate than I realized initially. So you can basically just hipfire spam this thing. Feels nice, sounds nice. Clearing mobs is pretty simple, as you can just back away from them. I don't feel like I ever, got myself in a position where I was cornered or taking a whole bunch of damage from mobs, as most of them you can just back away from and hipfire or kill with your starter pistol. So I feel like they can improve some of that. Maybe the later levels, like I said, are more challenging for that reason. DMR is nice. Feels nice, sounds nice. I don't know what's going on there. It's kind of scaring me a little bit. I hear footsteps close and may give us a chance to try this bad boy out. We hit a scan. Just shows actually there's a mob there. Not yet. And as you're hearing, the audio in this game is actually pretty impressive. Felt like a pretty surreal environment. Love what they did with that stuff. The guns and the atmosphere sound very unique, so props to them for that. We're going to use one of our skills, which I don't think everyone should start with. That whole scan ability is just a little bit too strange for me. You can basically just crouch around and scan and know where everyone is. Hit this guy pretty good, and then the AoE effects from his rifle really mess up our aiming. And of course, there's a guy behind us crouched in a team of two. So 264 damage, not quite enough. And this kind of week-long break of not doing a lot of gaming is kind of, showing its true colors here, as we missed a few easy shots. Moving on to what I think is probably the best part of this game, and also debatably the worst. Being able to craft all these weapons simply by extracting a lot of materials is pretty cool. As you know, I love being able to mix and match my builds and weapons often. But what I don't like is this whole idea with armor. That green armor I just purchased, I originally thought that you could wear that, take it into a game, and you would lose it. But as I started to do the missions, I got some of this armor, and you don't lose it ever. So once you're able to unlock like tier 1 of any of those things, you keep them forever. So all these guys I'm fighting with decent armor have either the increased health, increased shields, increased headshot reduction, all these things, and they're permanent. So it doesn't matter what weapon they're using, they're already way ahead of me in terms of 1v1. And like you're seeing right here, this is one of those energy weapons that looks really cool, but like you're about to see, isn't really useful when PvPing. we landed like 3 really solid shots there, maybe even one earlier, which amounted to 316 damage. However, that wasn't quite enough. And we die. He does 250 damage to us, which is enough. So, sadly, another weapon that just isn't quite great. And what I've kind of started to realize was it's not so much the weapons, but it's what masteries you have on your character, what masteries they have on their character, how much armor they're running around with. If you had like blue or purple armor, which giving, you know, 10% more, maybe even more than that, 10% or 20% more health with a couple masteries, that's a huge jump from base level gear. And this is where I think the experience from Dark and Darker to this game really starts to differentiate itself, as you don't really go in there learning how to fight a 1v1, you basically just go in there learning that you're not geared enough. Where in Dark and Darker, you go in there, you 1v1, you realize, okay, I need to try this differently. I hurt that guy quite a bit, but maybe I'll try a different weapon or a different setup. This game is just grind for gear. So my final opinion of this game is that yes, it's fun. You can have, you know, some really good moments where everything just clicks. But to compare it to Dark and Darker and have this overall experience, to me it doesn't even come close. The kills just aren't quite as satisfying, and the deaths don't feel like I really learned or gained any type of, you know, progression, even when I grinded or died repeatedly going into these dungeons, or this spaceship, for example. So, I recommend you guys give it a chance. It's still super early in development. I'm not gonna claim that this game is a waste of anything. It's free to play, and I did enjoy my time. It's just, I know what else is out there. I know what's just around the corner, being Dark and Darker. And it's so incredibly difficult to find something that is comparable in terms of my enjoyment, the amount of time I sunk into Dark and Darker, what I gained each level, each mission, every perk, every time I switched weapons felt like a whole new experience, where this game doesn't quite hit those highs quite yet. But I wish them the best of luck in their development, and I love the fact that we're seeing this genre develop further. So once again, thank you guys, I appreciate you all, and I'll see you hopefully in the dungeon very soon. Cheers. Just look how beautiful this is. You know, some of these rooms are truly amazing.